So what's going to happen, hopefully in the next hour and a half, is that we're going to give you a couple different presentations. We want to really present to you the arc of the work that we've been doing at the agency for the past 3 years around creative placemaking. And then that'll really sort of be the program side, the policy side. And then I'm going to tag off my partner. He's going to come up here and he's going to talk about some of the measurement systems we're looking at the agency around a number of different goals, but really specifically around how we're looking at trying to help people understand how to measure livability in communities. Sound good?
Yeah.
Great, yeah. I'm an interactive kind of guy, so. All right, so creative placemaking. Why did we do this? Okay, so Obama came in 2008. What was going on in the world? Right, and what was the number one problem in the financial crisis? Housing, great. So from the White House down, what was going on was that, there were all kinds of jobs that were gone, and everybody was upside down on their house, right? You couldn't just pick up and move to another place where a job would be, which was traditionally kind of what happened in America, People moved from Detroit to Atlanta, and we really couldn't do that anymore because no one could actually sell their homes. So from the White House down, they asked all agencies to work together on developing places where people lived right now. And that really kind of became the placemaking agenda of all agencies. And they really asked our agency to join in that. So it wasn't, it was really something that was happening across all agencies. And the way we like to portray it is that, this was not just a little arts policy over here. It was, here's our place. If we want to build a great place, there's probably 150 different guns you need to fire at once. What's the arts and design thread of that? What are the arts and design guns? That's the wrong metaphor. So how do we formally design creative placemaking? Always got to give credit to our props to the two Anns who came up with this wonderful definition that we use. I think everyone in this room has probably seen this 100 times, so I won't spend too much time on it. But I do like to emphasize the part of this definition, which is strategically shaping the physical and social character of a neighborhood, town, city, or region. And we should add tribe into this around arts and design activities. So Rocco was pretty clear that he wanted to do, Rocco Landison, the previous chairman of the NEA, was pretty clear that he wanted to work on a three-pronged strategy. And the first strategy was really the NEA. This is our new logo. And that was, hopefully we can get Congress to allow us to start spending some of our own money on some of this work. And that became the Our Town program, which I'll get into. But Rocco was always clear that, let's be honest, the NEA is not the biggest federal agency budget-wise. So we really needed the other agencies to join us. And there were a number of different initiatives that happened, and I won't get into all of them because we don't have time, where we worked directly with other agencies that were producing new funding lines, working on this placemaking work to figure out how to weave the arts into those programs. It took a number of different, it's different with every agency. One of the big ones was with HUD. They released these big new regional planning grants. There was specific arts language in there to include arts organizations in those planning processes. That was quite successful. I think out of the 60 grants they did in the first year, 20 of them had arts people participating in the planning processes. And so there were lots of different examples of ways we have worked with other agencies in this, Rock always described it as like the cuckoo bird planting our eggs in other agencies' nests, and getting them to raise the arts for us. Smart strategy, hard work to do. And then everybody knows about Art Place, right? That was Rocco going to the foundations and saying, we're never going to have enough money to fully support this. We really need you guys to step up and do this. This was all new money out of the foundations. It didn't come out of, that was sort of the gig, is that the presidents had to find new money to fund this. It wouldn't come out of the existing arts or place funds at those foundations. I think they're up, Liz is going to have to correct me here, I think you're up to 16 foundations? 13, thank you, sorry. And you heard about that yesterday. I won't spend too much more time talking about Art Place, but we're incredibly proud of it. So let's talk about our town. I'm going to dive into some kind of facts and figures and give you kind of the logic of how we have been working on our town. And I have to show some project examples because it's been 3 years and there's been some great work. And then we'll wrap up and we'll get Sunil up here. So the guess we had with our town, and I really have to give props to whoever's here from Massachusetts, to the Adams Arts program that I cut my teeth on working closely with over the years. We looked very closely at a lot of the work that had been happening in New England, and especially Massachusetts, when we were putting together the Our Town program. And the key thing that they seemed to have that made these projects work were these sort of forced partnerships between local governments and arts organizations. So we sort of guessed, this was an experiment, that if we made tribal leaders, mayors, city managers, county managers, forced into a relationship on a grant project with an arts organization, that would both empower that project to have the political leadership behind it and also create new conversations in communities. We're thrilled, it worked. A lot of people figured it out. There was a lot of people calling us and saying, a lot of mayor's offices calling us and going, all these arts people are calling us, what's going on? And we were like, great, they're your constituents, and a lot of arts folks calling us and say, who should we call? And we said, pick up the phone and call the mayor's office or the planning office. Why don't you have a relationship with them already? You live and work in this city. So we've ended up giving, over the past 3 years, 190 grants, everywhere from Teller, Alaska, that's on the Bering Strait, you can see, all the way up in Alaska, a town of 268 people, down to Orlando, Florida, and the tip of Florida, and including a town of 12 people in Last Chance, Colorado. This isn't their last chance. And really a complete mix of geographies and population sizes. There's a little fancy animation that was supposed to work. And what really shocked us was that the majority of the grants every year have been in communities of less than 100,000 people. So there are a lot of projects happening in big cities around this, but a lot of smaller communities have really figured out how to do this work and are doing it in incredibly interesting ways. So this is my favorite slide about this stuff. Well, the next one is too. I have two favorites. So on just the 2013 grants, we gave 59 grants. There were 439 partners on these projects. The average number of partners on an Our Town project is 15 in a community. In a town of 12 people, we got all 12. No. So that's huge. That's blew us out of the water. You know how hard it is to do partnerships. That is not easy. Now, some of these are just people that are jumping in at the right moment. Some of them are truly authentic, multiple partnerships. You can see here tons of interesting arts partners. When you look at those specific arts partners, you can see we have a mix of all kinds of arts in this, everything from visual arts to music and opera to museums to media, design organizations, dance. I'll show you a whole mix of different stuff. So everyone came in, and we're funding a number of different interesting things. We finally got our first opera company as a lead in the last year. I was really thrilled. And then this is my other favorite slide. These are all the other folks that showed up. This is crazy. We had the military, we had churches, environmental groups, libraries, all levels of government, land trusts, schools. Everybody in a community who needed to be on a project to make these things happen stepped up and made it happen. I think you've heard great examples of this, where like Marty Pottinger is working with a million different interesting organizations in our community. The work is incredibly diverse, incredibly interesting, and I could go on forever talking about it, and I don't have forever. So partners you might not expect, cows. This is a great project in Wisconsin I'm going to talk about a little bit called Worm Farm, but I just love that picture so much I had to show it. And then this is our most recent slide, which is a little bit of a change. I probably should have also shown our 2013 project types. The project, a lot of people think of placemaking work as, it's about design, it's about a cultural facility, it's about a new artist space, or it's about creative industries. That's what it was the first few years. This last year, the programming and the public art side of it really blew up. The people doing the programming aspects of creative placemaking work really began to figure out how to do this work in their communities in new ways and came in with some amazing projects. So let's look, this is the fun part, let's look at some cool projects. This is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Has anybody been there to the SteelStacks? Awesome. So what was this SteelStacks before? Right, awesome. I know fair. And so this was the former Bethlehem Steel, where the steel for the Empire State Building and the Statue of Liberty was made. And half of it is a casino. That's an economic development strategy people are using. The other half of it has been turned into this amazing art center. You can see they have a Levitt Pavilion. We have Levitt Pavilions here today. They have a music festival that happens on this site and other parts of this community that brings in 2 million people a year. They have a new art music center they've built, and they really came into us for this capstone piece, which is this piece of public art, which is a gigantic steel arch, which you can light on fire. You can imagine what the approvals for that was like locally for my public art peeps in the crowd. And up the sides of this piece of steel are all the major buildings that were, lists all the major buildings that were built with Bethlehem steel. Overall, this is just an amazing example of how a post-industrial city can engage the arts to do, as an economic development strategy. This is like a post-industrial Red Rocks with these awesome, cool steel stacks up in the back there that they light up in front of a performance. Go there if you can. It's truly amazing. We also fund cultural district planning. This was a unique one in Detroit, in the Midtown District, where the major cultural organizations are. They came into us and said, we have all these great organizations, but all the sort of interstitial places are really underused, and we'd like to bring in some landscape architects and architects to rethink how these spaces could be used as both cultural spaces, spaces for public art, and spaces for other kinds of uses. I'm showing one here that's a slide here that's not showing a cultural use, but a potential reuse as for bike facilities. And they used a landscape architect who just won the National Design Award. In Boise, this is a great example of a programming grant. Trey McIntyre, who probably many people are familiar with, a famous dance company, came to us and said, look, it's going to be the city's sesquicentennial. Took me a while to nail that one. That's 150 years. And we want to dance all over the city. We don't want people to just have to come to us. We want to bring dance to the entire city. They danced in hospitals. They danced in streets. They danced in corporations. They danced all over the place. And a really great example of bringing high-quality professional dance to a multiplicity of uses in a really interesting way. We also supported artist entrepreneurship as part of this work. So in Fort Collins, Colorado, they had a former museum space. The museum moved to a new space. So they engaged this organization called Beat Street and said, we want to do artist business training. And so they built this whole new facility that's a new artist training center. But the cool thing they did is they said, we want to work with the entire Rocky Mountain West. We want this to be online. We want to use the kind of what every university is doing now and putting all courses online. And they created this new arts incubator of the Rockies, or AIR, which is a nice name. And you can go there, you can participate as an artist. And what was fantastic about this grant is almost every single one of the West Staff state arts agencies signed off on helping this project succeed as something for the entire Rocky Mountain West. We funded straight up public art. This is in Chattanooga. This is an interesting project because it was an attempt to combine public art and public health. All of the public art pieces in this park are something you can interact with. These three major pieces you see here, there's a steel bridge you can't see that's sort of behind, back over here. And these three pieces will line up if you, there's little turn-to-turn style things at the bottom of this. If you can turn them all to line up, and when they line up, they light up perfectly as a bridge. And then there's these other sort of elements in the park that are all about public health. We also did a lot of temporary public art. That seems to be a huge strategy that people are using in creative placemaking right now. What's great about this project, I love this one. Is anybody familiar with 01 Festival in San Jose? Awesome, probably the most important digital festival in the country. Well, the city realized that they had this amazing digital festival. They're in the center of Silicon Valley. There's all these amazing companies like Google and Twitter and the future of our economy, really, in the United States in a lot of ways. But they weren't participating in the success of downtown San Jose. So they wanted to give the companies a chance to interact and create these sort of public art, quote-unquote, platforms, where they would engage an artist to work with the company to create these pieces of public art. But then also the pieces of public art would have to be about creating or improving a space in the downtown, sort of three initiatives at once. This is the Twitter one. This piece, when you approach it, that fellow there's approaching it and leaning in on it, and when you lean on it, it pulls all the Twitter data on whatever everybody's tweeting about in San Jose, and says, hey, everybody in San Jose is talking about Oprah. What do you think of Oprah? And you say back to it, Oprah is awesome. And right? And then it tweets that back out into the Twitter sphere. So cool piece of public art. It didn't say Oprah to me when I walked up. I think it said like backgammon or something. I don't remember. This is another example of a cultural district plan in downtown Minneapolis. I love this one, and I'll just go through this rather quickly. What was really unique about this project is they used artists to run the public meetings. So they used dance artists and theater artists to actually, as a creative way to engage the public through the public planning process for this cultural district plan. You can go online and watch videos of these public meetings and part of how the artists did their process. Very cool. Design Museum Boston, I love. Anybody know Design Museum Boston? Cool, awesome. So yeah, of course. So they're not a museum. These are guys that care about the design industry itself. This is a creative economy initiative, and they want to raise the visibility of design. So they came into us to fund this street seat project, which was about hiring designers to design temporary street seats. But that's fine and dandy, that's cool, but that's not that interesting. A lot of people do those kind of things. What was interesting about this is they said, every step of the process is going to be about teaching people about the design process and who's here in our backyard. So they had this whole online website where you could watch videos about how people had designed the things. You could see the building progress of the piece coming, and then you would know when the piece showed up. When you got there were these cool pavilions where it was an app. You could download everything about the designers and everything. And my favorite part of it, not to overly dwell on this one, was on those little pavilions next to the seats, there were little lights at the top, and these were all kind of around the Fort Point Channel in Boston. And with your app, you could control the color of the lights at the top at night, so you could change how it looked. It was really cool. I have two more examples, then we'll get to Sunil, or a couple more things from me and then Sunil. So I wanted to show that we did fund some cultural facilities. This is a very interesting one in Milwaukee. That's going to be a dance school, a school of the arts, and a school of sports medicine, all going into the same facility. There's a lot of other interesting kind of financing stuff happening around this project where the city is going to create a new funding line through a parking lot for this project. But I loved the idea of combining a very physical art form with a school of sport medicine into the same building. There's some real synergy there that I think will be amazing. Worm Farm, got to talk about Worm Farm, my favorite rural example. They're amazing. If you don't know Worm Farm, this is in rural Wisconsin. Long story short, they do this festival every year, and they wanted to do something on top of it. So they worked with the local farmers there. These are artists who live in this community, to not only design artsy-fartsy roadside food stands so that the farmers had a nicer place to actually sell their food out of. They got the farms to create all of these amazing public art pieces out on the farms and a bunch of poetry and all kinds of performances out on the farms so that when people came to the festival, they would then drive out on this detour to the farms to see the public art. This is a Mennonite family. This is them visiting a piece of public art here. I just saw a photo from the one this year, and there was an awesome picture of a opera singer in a cornhusk dress and a piano out in a field doing a performance. So cool. And then I just wanted to touch on culture blocks real quick too, since we're talking about data. Hope everyone has seen culture blocks in Philly. This is the gold standard of local mapping of cultural data in the country. Sorry, Nifa, yours is also a gold standard. Forgot I was in New England. So let's see what I mapped here. I mapped National Endowment for the Arts grants and also ethnic diversity status. So you can kind of see some very interesting things with this data. Tons of different demographic data and investment data, and it's really to inform policymakers about how they're making their investments in the Philadelphia area. All right, so let me talk real quick about, so we don't want to just give grants, we also want to build a field. So let me talk a little bit about what some of those efforts are. We have been doing a large number of podcasts on our we're doing a lot of website things right now. We're also doing a series of webinars. We did a series of webinars with our town panelists to talk about the process in the field. And then you guys get a special preview. This is the first time it's ever being seen public of our brand new Placemaking East storybook, which will be coming out next June, hopefully. So before I do the drum roll thing, I want to explain where this came from. So as we were getting into this work, we do follow blogs, we do listen to the national conversation quite closely, and everyone was saying, we want case studies. We want to know how people are doing this work across the country. We want to know how the work is happening, and we want lessons learned. We don't need, while evaluation is really, really, really important, at this moment, we don't need a 50-page evaluation. I need 900 words on how to understand how to do this work. So we said, great, so let's try it. So we were going to this will be 75 case studies and a bunch of analysis of those case studies coming soon. So drum roll, this is what it's going to look like in black and white. It will be in color. So it's going to be called Exploring Our Town. It'll have two different aspects of it, the project showcase and the project insights. So the showcase will, you'll be able to sort through the case studies very easily. You'll see at the top there, you'll be able to sort them by where they are, the project setting, which is it a rural community, suburban, small urban, different sizes of urban communities. And then you'll also be able to sort them by project type. So public art, cultural districts, all that kind of thing. And then in the insights section, we did this sort of social science study already in this process to figure out how people talk about these projects. And it really fell into four big buckets. The place that people know, the ideas that we have, how they made it happen, and the place they're creating. So we really want to pull out insights in each of those buckets of thought. That'll be one aspect of the insights section. The other will be insights directly about different kinds of project types. So you'll be able to pull up a page, look at all the cultural planning projects at once, what are the lessons learned from cultural planning, and also link out to other resources about cultural planning in the country. This is what one of the individual project samples will look like. I'll show you a little bit of it. So you'll be able to kind of scroll down through all these different things. There'll be a lovely big map where you can map it, and you'll be able to read all about it in about 900 to 1,000 words. You can clap. It's going to be awesome. I can't promise June, but we're hoping June. So we're right in the middle of it all. But it's going to be beautiful and going to be awesome. So we're going to tag team here. We're going to bring Sunil up here, and then we're going to come up and answer some questions together. So appreciate your patience. Thank you.